Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and everybody in between, welcome to another episode of Jake Bowtell Sports Experience. It's back. What are you even thinking, Jake? I don't know. We'll see if we last 2 episodes, 3 episodes, 20 episodes. Who knows? It's the podcast that can't be killed. My name is Jake, and I'm literally joined.
Yeah,
It's weird.
not a virtual studio. This is the real studio.
It feels like Troy Aikman, Joe Buck.
Yeah,
Welcome back to
really,
the Jake
really
Bowtell-
tight in here in our little studio in the booth.
That's right, here in the booth, ready to break down the AFC North. This is the first of our division preview episodes. We're going to go through all 8 divisions over the course of the next few weeks. From time to time, schedules permitting, we will also be joined by the great Oklahoman himself, Mr. David Vaughan. But today, it's the 2 Aussies. And Jack, I think we can start. Our qualifications for judging NFL are very limited. We're probably 2 of the only Australians not punting for an NFL or college team this season. Let's not stuff around any further. Let's crack straight in. I'm going to lead us off talking about the Cleveland Browns. So the way this format will work, we're going to do a couple of minutes, basically getting you up to speed on each team, and then we'll have a chat at the end about how we think the division will play out and make a bit of a prediction about where everyone will finish. So the Cleveland Browns, they defied the dead weight of Deshaun Watson's gravitational pull in 2023 to fly to an 11-6 record and a second-place finish in the AFC North. That flight came on the wings of ancient wizard Joe Flacco and a mythical horde of defensive monsters led by Defensive Player of the Year, Myles Garrett. Cleveland's wings were eventually melted 14-45 by the raging inferno of the Houston Texans in the first round of the playoffs. But given the attrition they suffered across the season, it's pretty hard to look back at 2023 as anything other than a bizarre success story. With an impressive roster and one of the league's best coaches at the helm, 2024 should shape as another playoff opportunity for the Browns, but massive question mark at the QB position still lingers around their potential of a championship run. It leaves it in extreme doubt for mine. To get you up to speed on the ins and outs, the Joe Flacco ride is over in Cleveland. As his career's not over, by the way. He's signed on. I think
I don't think his career will ever be over.
He will just be perennially part of the crew, part of the ship.
Yeah,
Pirates of the Caribbean reference for you there. The ride in Cleveland is over though, as the grizzled veteran moves on to back up Anthony Richardson in Indianapolis, while linebacker Sione Takitaki departs for New England. The Browns retained defensive tackle Shelby Harris and defensive end Zadarius Smith, with Smith having provided decent production, 5.5 sacks, 20 QB hits, and 27 tackles behind Myles Garrett in 2023. Also walking into that defense is former Vikings linebacker Jordan Hicks, while the offense welcomes former Broncos wide receiver Jerry Jeudy, running back Deonta Foreman, and quarterback Jameis Winston. Speaking of QBs who are still in the league.
Yes.
With no first-rounded pick available to them, Cleveland adds Ohio State defensive tackle Michael Hall, who had 45 tackles and 6 sacks in 28 starts for the Buckeyes in the second round, and Michigan offensive lineman Zach Zinter, nice alliteration there, in the third round. Also drafted were Louisville wide receiver Jamari Thrash, Mississippi State linebacker Nathaniel Watson, South Dakota DB Miles Harden, and Cincinnati defensive end Jawan Briggs. The big question, we're going to be asking this of all the teams, Jacko. The big question for me is, once again, we sit at the doorstep of a new season, wondering whether the Cleveland Browns will be elevated or anchored by the play of their quarterback position. Under coach Kevin Stefanski, and you know a bit about Stefanski, being a Vikings fan, this roster has shown repeatedly that it can compete and play tough, but can also win games and challenge for division titles. As long as this team can be competently quarterbacked, the run game and defense will carry them to 10 or more wins in 2024. But competency has been elusive for the Browns at quarterback since Deshaun Watson arrived. And while Jameis Winston provides the potential of being a high upside backup should Watson fall short of form or fitness, banking on Winston to provide week in, week out stability is a notion that has capsized many other would-be NFL contenders in the past and has probably cost one or two coaches their job. Can Cleveland's defense get the support it needs from their QB? Well, we're going to find out in a couple of months, Jacko. So I'll handball over to you now. One of Cleveland's biggest division rivals, division winner last season, the Baltimore Ravens.
Handball's probably the wrong
yeah, wrong sport. Sorry, I'll hand off.
Hand off. There we go.
We got it. We nailed it.
Yeah. So to the Ravens, after losing 2 of their first 5 games of the 2023 campaign, the Baltimore Ravens tasted defeat just twice more in the final 12 games of the regular season as they swept to a 13-4 record in an AFC North division title. Their miserly defense conceded a league-low 16.5 points per game, led by Roquan Smith and Patrick Queen, who combined for 291 tackles, and the trio of Kyle Van Noy, Jadeveon Clowney, and Justin Madubuike.
I've just said these were meant to be this was going to be the team that David was going to read. So I've thrown you in it. And
that's good.
Justin Madubuike, first off.
We'll do. We're going to edit that.
Yes.
As my lips say it, you're going to come in with the words.
Voice it over.
They stacked up a total of 31.5 sacks and 61 QB hits. They mercilessly crushed the plucky Houston Texans 34-10 in the divisional round of the playoffs before being held to just 10 points at home in an agonizing 7-point loss to the Kansas City Chiefs in the conference title game. So with the team ins and outs, Baltimore has had its losses over the offseason with defensive end Jadeveon Clowney and Kyle Van Noy lured away to Carolina and Las Vegas, and linebacker Patrick Queen defecting to division rivals, the Pittsburgh Steelers. The offensive line has had 2 players poached in offensive tackle Morgan Moses and offensive guard Kevin Zeitler, while wide receivers Devin Duvernay and Odell Beckham Jr. and running backs Gus Edwards and J.K. Dobbins also clear out. On the way in the door at Baltimore are former Tennessee Titan and perhaps future Hall of Famer running back Derrick Henry. Maybe. That's another podcast.
Yeah, that's right.
And offensive tackle Josh Jones from the Houston Texans. The upper rounds of the draft saw the Ravens snag Clemson cornerback Nate Wiggins in the first round, Washington offensive lineman Roger Rosengarten.
I've thrown you all the names.
Rosengarten's all right. I can do that. In the second, and Penn State defensive end Adisa Isaac in the third. We'll go with that. Now, the big question for the Ravens. Can the Ravens cover the production of what they lost on both lines of scrimmage? Patrick Queen played 96% of defensive snaps for Baltimore in 2023, racking up a career-high 133 tackles. Jadeveon Clowney played 56% of snaps, the highest amongst Baltimore's defense, and had an equal career-high 9.5 sacks. Kyle Van Noy was on the field for 42% of defensive snaps and also stacked up a career-high 9 sacks. On offense, Kevin Zeitler was on the field 87.3% of the time for the Ravens, behind only John Simpson and Lamar Jackson, while Morgan Moses totaled the 6th highest offensive snap count with 69%.
Nice.
Odell Beckham Jr. recorded the second most targets on the team and accounted for the second most receiving yards. And under John Harbaugh, the Ravens have had 12 winning seasons in his 16 years in charge and have done so by maintaining an excellent track record of developing talent to maintain the standard. They'll have to do so again in 2024 if they're to fill the gaps of what they lost, particularly on the offensive and defensive line.
I was stunned by how much they lost, and we'll get into it afterwards. But like the amount of production, it's not like they've just lost low end guys. Like these were big contributors.
But you want to see that if you're not winning a Super Bowl, you know what I mean? Like,
true,
you can't do the same thing over and over. So at least they're trying.
Definition of insanity.
Exactly. Yeah.
I like starting this podcast again. Only the 7th time in 7 years. And just before anyone on YouTube jumps on us, Jadeveon Clowney, the 7th highest amongst Baltimore's defense for time on the ground, or snaps, as they say in this sport. Time on ground, bit of an AFL stat there. Let's jump to a team that's near and dear to my heart, though at times their offense made that an impossible task to be their fan. The Pittsburgh Steelers. After starting the season 2-2 with close wins over the Browns and Raiders and suffering hammer blow beatings at the hands, got the Hans, the Hans of
There's some European player
that's
coming.
right, Hans of the 49ers and Texans. The Steelers found themselves in a position to launch at the second half of the season from a 6-3 vantage at the conclusion of week 10. The men from the Steel City then suffered 4 defeats in 5 games before rescuing a wild card spot by closing out the season with a trio of wins over the Bengals, Seahawks, and Ravens. That postseason campaign was brief. Pittsburgh comfortably handled 17-31 by the Bills in Buffalo to leave the black and gold winless in the playoffs since 2016, Jacko. It's not good. Pittsburgh were uncharacteristically aggressive in the offseason as GM. Let me start again. Let me have another crack at it. So this is the team ins and outs. Let's start off there.
Yes.
Pittsburgh, uncharacteristically aggressive in the offseason as GM Omar Khan reshaped a quarterback room that had woefully underperformed. And let's face it, not just last year, but many years prior. Former first round pick Kenny Pickett was jettisoned to Philadelphia. Mason Rudolph lands in Tennessee. Mitch Trubisky returns to Buffalo behind Josh Allen. So all 3 QBs, they gone. Incoming are potential solutions for the now in one-time Super Bowl champion Russell Wilson and the future in former first-round pick Chicago Bears quarterback Justin Fields. Also gone on offense are wide receivers Deontay Johnson, Allen Robinson, and Miles Boykin. The Steelers beef up the offensive line via the draft with Washington's Troy Fautano and West Virginia's Zach Frazier joining in the first and second rounds, while a pair of Wilsons, wide receiver Roman and linebacker Peyton, join from Michigan and NC State in the third. The defense gets a high-profile addition in the form of linebacker Patrick Queen, who joins on a 3-year deal from division rival Baltimore. Always love that when you can make a division opponent weaker and get stronger in the process. The big question, can the Pittsburgh Steelers offense help out their overworked defense in 2024? For so many years, the offensive side of the ball has lagged behind their defensive counterparts, and not just since the retirement of Ben Roethlisberger. The Steelers have struggled to run the football and in recent years to pass it as far back as 2019. Much of this has stemmed from a degraded level of play from their offensive line, but that began to show signs of improvement in the back half of 2023, particularly in the run game. The Steelers averaged just 79 yards on the ground in the first 7 games of last season, but that number rose to 141 yards per game in their final 11 games of the campaign. If they can pound the ball like they did in the second part of 2023 and get something resembling average starting quarterback play from Russell Wilson, then the Steelers can win this division and maybe even, if we cross our fingers, a playoff game in 2024.
It's funny how this division is just full of teams that have great defenses and horrible offenses.
That's the AFC North.
Yeah, maybe with the exception of this last team.
This is lovely transition.
Oh, yes.
As I hand the ball off to you once more.
Yes, thank you. So that team is indeed the Cincinnati Bengals. So the Cincinnati Bengals refused to learn from past mistakes and had their season yet again derailed by a Joe Burrow injury. At 5-4 leading into Week 11, the Bengals were well. I'm going to try again too.
It's catching. It's contagious.
We're going to just watch the COVID 1.5 meters.
Yeah,
we might need that. At 5-4 leading into Week 11, the Bengals were well within their rights to expect a deep playoff run, but a season-ending wrist injury against the Ravens snuffed out any Super Bowl chances. To their credit, they ended the season at 9-8 with Jake Browning performing above expectations, but never felt like they were going to resurrect their season. If Burrow can stay healthy, this team will always be in the conversation, but there's a worrying trend with their star QB. Now, when it comes to their team ins and outs, the 3 biggest acquisitions the front office made going into 2024 are Trent Brown at right tackle, Mike Gesicki at tight end, and Sheldon Rankins at defensive tackle. Trent Brown should do a good job protecting his man, but he has had issues staying healthy himself. Mike Gesicki is yet to prove himself as a reliable tight end on every down, but has enough talent to excite Cincy fans. and Sheldon Rankins is a solid addition to that defense. Losing star running back Joe Mixon to the Cardinals is going to hurt, especially as he was so prolific last year, but gaining running back Zach Moss should alleviate some of that pain. The Bengals had to wait until pick 18 to draft their first player, but with that pick, they snatched up offensive lineman Amarius Mims, who alongside the offensive line should go a long way to building a fortress around Joe Burrow. You can't accuse the Bengals of not trying to fix this problem now. Now, the big question for the Bengals, it remains what it has always been. Will Joe Burrow stay healthy this year? Not only because of the immediate effect that would have on this season, but on what it could mean for the long-term future of their quarterback. An ACL in his rookie year and a season-ending wrist injury last year, if he was to suffer another major injury in his short career so far, it could be a terrible sign for his longevity in the league. Joe Burrow has the mindset and the talent to place himself along the great QBs of the modern NFL, but his body might be letting him down. We don't want another Andrew Luck situation.
No, we don't. Joe Burrow, despite playing for the rival Bengals, rival to my Steelers, he's one of my favorite NFL players. He was one of my favorite college football players.
One of your all-time great takes. You were on to Joe Burrow before anyone else.
Thank you, Jack. I'll send
you didn't want to take yourself?
I'll send you that $100 later. Yeah, it was. I mean, I thought you could see special things going on with Joe Burrow, even in 2018, which was his first year as a starter in LSU. So yeah, like I want to see him healthy. I want to see this team be their best. Obviously, from a Steelers point of view, I want to beat them. And we've had a decent go at beating Joe Burrow, which is always nice. I can appreciate him against other teams.
Sure.
So what are you feeling about this division? We're going to sort of transition into making our predictions shortly. But first off, we've just had a look at all four teams. What's your sort of vibe check on the AFC North? Like the simple thing I would say is it's such a slugfest of a division. Like there are all four teams, you could make a case for being able to win the thing.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like anyone's sort of primed for a drop off, where someone's going to all of a sudden, have like a horrible losing season or anything. Because, like the Ravens, we said there's been so much change, but it feels like good change. Like it does feel like it's going to improve that team, or at the very least, have it be stagnant. But by stagnant, that means winning the division again, which always puts you in that position. And then the Browns, like obviously their defense is amazing. The worry has been the offense. But you feel like surely a man with his talents in Deshaun Watson, another year, is going to perform better than he did. And obviously, health permitting. And then the Steelers, I think that either Russell Wilson or Justin Fields will be an improvement at quarterback. But I'm in the Fields camp personally. I think Fields will be a better quarterback for them. The question is who starts, who stays at that spot. But I think depending on your own opinions on who would be better, I think what does matter is the fact that either of them would be better than what they had last year.
Yeah.
So you feel like Pittsburgh isn't going to drop off. And then Cincinnati, it really does feel like if Joe Burrow can just stay under center and not get sacked all the time, they're going to be up there. They still have the talent. They still have, Jamar Chase and Joe Burrow. That sort of combination, I think is going to be really, really strong for them. And I feel like they've always had a bit of an underrated defense that doesn't really get talked about as much because of what they have on the offensive side of the ball. So, I mean, football's weird, any given Sunday, as they say. So who knows? But there's no telltale signs, unlike some other teams in the NFL where you're like, this team's going to drop off. I think they're all going to be, it could be yet another year where the fourth place team has a winning record.
Yeah.
What was the case last year.
Absolutely. I think it's one of the toughest divisions in football. Their record last year showed that. They had three teams make the playoffs. And as you said, the Bengals, who finished last and played, chunks of the year without their starting QB, had a winning record. So it's a really tough division to fight your way out of. I think you can make a case for everyone in this division. Something that stuck out to me about this was just how impressive, and it pains me to say it, but how impressive Cleveland was, despite the fact that they had atrocious quarterback play last year. They went 11-6.
Yeah.
And they won game. I think they were 5-1 or 6-1 with Deshaun Watson. I believe they even won games with Dorian Thompson Robinson.
Yeah.
Like they found ways. I think they've kind of got there's all these questions about these other teams. For me, the Ravens, it's not so much about QB. We
Sure.
know what's
Yeah.
there. It's I was kind of a bit shocked about how much they lost. I deliberately took a big break this offseason from the NFL. So coming back and doing these was sort of like really illuminating for me of going, oh my goodness, this team lost this player or this player jumped onto this side. Like they lost some really significant contributors. I love their track record of talent acquisition and development, but you know they've got to show they can do it again. And the Steelers, you know, I guess sometimes I feel too close to them almost to make a really accurate pick. But let's try and come together on where we on making a prediction. Our you know, 4th through 1st. Let's do it this way. Who do you think? I've got the team that I've got in 4th. Where are you going?
I think I have mine too.
Okay. I think I have mine. Where are you going? You tell me first.
And this is, as we just discussed, this is not necessarily because I think this team's going to be shit or anything. It's just that like it's going to be such a competitive division. I think it's going to be the Steelers. And the reason why is I think that they're going to leave it too late with their quarterback position. By the time they finally clicks with either Fields or Russell Wilson, I think it's going to be too late to make up enough ground to overtake what progress Cincinnati, Bowtell, the Steelers getting to like 9-8, and they like finish the season 6-1. Yeah, but they just lost too many games when either they decided with Wilson, and he lost a bunch of games because he's the Wilson from Denver that wasn't really any good, or the opposite, they start with Fields, and Fields is still rough and raw, and he's not quite it, and then they go to the other guy. But that's not with any confidence. But if I had to pick one, that's the only one that has like a real question mark that matters to me. And I think quarterback's most important, and I think they're the most uncertain.
Yep. Yeah, it's tough. Look, I definitely don't have the Steelers winning it. I probably had them slotted into that sort of like 3rd, maybe 2nd if things go really right. Because I mean, I think this is a team that's capable of winning, you know, 10, 11, 12 games if everything went right. But it's really tough trying to separate out this division. I think it will be, when we look back at all the divisions once we've done them, the hardest division.
Yeah.
To
started well.
Yeah, it's a trick. Look, I could make a case about Baltimore.
See, I can't do that because I made the case for Baltimore to be last year, and I really got burned. Yeah. So feel free to take on that burden if you like.
But look, listening to what you've said about the Steelers, look, I'm happy to agree. And again, this isn't saying that, you know, any particular team's going to be crap, but we're trying to rate the likelihood. I think there is a likely scenario where the Steelers, you know, could be that Cincinnati from last year and have a winning record and finish last. I'm okay with doing that.
Okay.
Go 4th, then go 1st.
Doing a sandwich.
Yeah. We're making a sandwich.
Bottom bread, top bread, and then we'll get the meat.
So I say the Cleveland Browns win this division.
My gut is going to Cincinnati.
Yep.
Because I think the fact that they got to 9-8 without Joe Burrow means that Joe Burrow feels like he gives you another 3-4 wins even. But I can see.
Where did you have the Browns then?
Browns I probably had 2nd. I think that they're about there. I think I trust Cincinnati more than the Browns because when it comes to the quarterbacks of both teams, I know that if Joe Burrow is on the field, he's going to be great.
Yeah.
I don't know that yet about Deshaun Watson at Cleveland. There's the question of, once he gets back on the field and recovers from his injury, then it'll be great. But it's still actually a question to me. Whereas I know, as long as Joe Burrow is there, he's going to be great. Yeah. And I know Cleveland's defense is great and all that. But like I said, I think Cincinnati's isn't too bad either. And I probably, would, if everyone's healthy, I rate their offense higher.
All right. So would you be happy with this? Cincinnati first.
Mm.
We're making the assumption they've fixed the offensive line. Joe
Yep.
Burrow plays, most of the season and into
Mm.
playoffs. Cleveland is second.
Yep.
Because they showed last year they could win with almost whatever they
Yep.
could at quarterback.
Mhm.
Baltimore in third.
Yeah,
And the Steelers in fourth.
I think so.
And all of those teams could have winning records.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
We did it.
Hey, look at that.
No, I like that. I'm very comfortable with that as our rankings. I hope Pittsburgh get the QB decision right. But look, more than the QB decision, it's the running game. I hope that whatever they discovered at the end of last season, whatever they've drafted and added, I hope that all builds towards them being able to run the ball at over 100 yards per game in 2024. Because if they do that, I don't think it matters as much who it is at quarterback.
Yeah.
For the record, I think they'll start with Wilson. I think Wilson will get the nod. But I don't think that he's guaranteed to start all the games this season.
No, I think he'll be on a short leash.
Yeah.
If they go 0-3, and it's because of Russell Wilson.
Yeah.
I think that'll be enough for him.
Fields might, that they might pull the Fields lever. I do like that we signed Mike Tomlin to an extension.
Yeah.
I like that. I like the stability. I think he can build another Super Bowl winning team. But no, I'm happy with that. We've got the Bengals with Joe Burrow to take out the top spot. We've got Cleveland to finish second because they've shown they can win regardless of what's at QB. The Ravens at third. We've got question marks over what they've lost, whether they can replicate it. And the Steelers, can they continue to defy gravity if they don't get things right at QB, if the running game doesn't continue to take that step forward? And the defense, unfortunately, when it's left to be overworked, has then given up some horrific games at times the last few seasons. So, no, I'm happy with that.
And you could flip it, and that would also be just as likely. You could flip the whole division and be like, yeah, no, I could see Pittsburgh going 1, see Ravens going 2, Browns 3.
100%. Because if Joe Burrow does an ankle or something, and that then they might win 9 and 8 games, but that was only good enough to finish fourth last year. So, no, it's a rugged division. It's one of the best divisions in all of football. We have previewed it for you, the AFC North. That'll do from us for this one. Make sure you check out our AFC East preview, which is coming in a few days. We'll be back to preview all of the divisions heading into the NFL season. But until next time, get some football.